Our next guest is the brilliant brain box behind all your favourite things on the telly. He's now telling us what it's like behind the camera in his new book, Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventure, which is out now. So let's welcome a man with all the skills, man. It's time to chill, man, with Andy Wilman!
Yeah!
I'm joining in as
So,
well.
people who know about Wilman will know of his wonder, and people who don't will think, who's this guy? Why have you got him on? Andy Wilman is the Wizard of Oz behind the Jeremy Clarkson Top Gear years and the Grand Tour, which was fabulous and will always be fabulous, and now Clarkson's Farm. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Chris.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
being
for having
here.
me back. Last time we were here was Movie Show 2.
Radio 2,
Show.
wasn't it? Yeah, I know.
Radio 2.
So you've written this book, Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventure. I mean, I loved it for all my own particular reasons. It's such a page turner. You wrote it because Clarkson wouldn't. Is that about right?
Clarkson couldn't. Couldn't because Penguin, obviously, you know, the accounts department want Jeremy on the cover or non-entity on cover. You know which way they're going. And he was like, I can't remember what we did. And it's not that he's like ready for a care home. He just doesn't hold stuff in his
he lives
back.
in the moment, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's like, what am I doing today? Oh, look, my shoes are on. So he's like that. And then he said, no, get Andy to write it. So they rang me and they said, do you remember everything? I said, yeah. And they went, would you like a ghostwriter? And I went, I don't know, what's the swear thing here?
You can't swear. It's not a podcast, no.
So I was like, you can go and yourself.
Yeah.
And then I sent them some words. And then they went, okay, you can write. And then off we went.
Well, you can write because you started off as a journalist,
Well,
didn't you?
yeah, exactly. So it was like, and the joy of it was, obviously, we've done some amazing stuff, but I was now on my own with my laptop and my memory.
Yeah.
And nobody could tell me what to do or anything. So I could go back in time, and I thought, I won't dwell. I'll just, Jeremy Night School, there are elements of it that sing to what we ended up doing. You know, my Uncle John, which is a bit in there that makes nothing sense to anybody, but yeah, it meant a lot to me. And then it flowed out. It just flowed out. And then before I knew it, I'm doing like, we're getting battered in Argentina, we're crashing and burning at the BBC, and I'm like enjoying going through it.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing was not to write what you saw. You know, I didn't go, and then we did a mini down a ski jump, and this is what you watch.
Yeah.
It was like, try and go in between, try and look at the glue.
Well, it's great, mate.
Oh,
Honestly,
thank
it's
you.
a great book. I just got the Sunday Times culture section to see if it's in the top 10. It's not. It should be. You've got to get this book, guys.
It was last week.
Okay, great. Well, it should be. It should be every week.
Tumbling now.
Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventure. Honestly, it's a great. If you love Top Gear, and you love the Grand Tour, or you just like great telly, or people who are good at what they do, or people who have realised things beyond the dreams they didn't even dare to have, beyond the dreams they didn't even dare to have. This is the book. It's such a page turner. I loved it. Look, I'm getting chills talking about just describing it. It's so cool. Just so people know where we're going to go with this. So we'll talk about your Top Gear, where we started with your Top Gear in the pub on the back of a fag packet, literally.
Yeah.
We'll talk about you not being able to get a first guest, going back to the same pub and that first guest walking in. We'll talk about the £5 million tent. We'll talk about the £2.5 million opening title sequence for Grand Tour. We'll talk about the American pitching deal. We'll talk about Hammond and May nearly staying at the BBC after Clarkson was fired.
Yep.
We're going to talk about all that stuff in the next half an hour, so please do stay tuned.
We're settling in, aren't we?
We're settling in, baby.
Yep. Get your other guests to turn their cabs round.
First of all, Andy, great to see you again. Really, honestly.
We haven't seen each other for like donkeys, have we?
I know, far too long.
Absolutely donkeys.
But your book has brought us together, and thank God for that.
I remember the last time we saw each other, we went on a bit of a bender. Patrick's Day, you organised it, and I got a phone call from our press officer going, the Daily Star says you called someone a slope, and I was like, okay, I'll pick this up later. And
was that day?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It put a bit of a down. I went on to halves after that. It put a bit of a down on things. Yeah.
And that was the last time.
Prescient. Yeah.
I can't believe it was that long ago.
Yeah.
So there was a Top Gear in the 80s and the 90s, and you were actually part of that Top Gear.
Yes, I was, but I was on it for about 10 minutes.
Didn't you present on it?
Yeah, about 10 minutes. I mean,
was that the Nude American show?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the way you say it, like.
so you presented on.
The way you say
so
it.
we've both been failed presenters on Top Gear.
That's yeah, but I got my kit off to make it work.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Then I need to pay you back at some point. I'll get round to that.
Right.
But So, yeah, Nude American Car Show. It is basically, as you would imagine, there's like, imagine sort of carry-on film. So you got Barbara Windsor and all that, a lot running around, volleyball, with like everyone naked and Mustangs and Corvettes. And it was in Wisconsin.
So naked car enthusiasts.
Naked car enthusiasts.
And they put it on the telly.
I rang them up and I said, oh, can we come and report on this? And they went, yeah, you can, as long as you're all naked, you, the film crew, everybody. And I thought, this is it. This is my making. I'm going to be star of Pebble Mill. So the one issue, I'm glad this is radio, I've got a really hairy back, right? Yeah. And I was like, and I said to my wife, I'm going to get my whole back waxed. And she went, that's a 5-session job. And I was like, what do you know? Like classic Handmaid's Tale logic. I was like, what do you know? I was like, I'm doing it in one go. And she said, no. I was like, no, because the one you strip first will then start growing again. She went, please just listen to me. Yeah. Ignored her and did it all in one night, the night before I flew. Next day at the show, my back is like a medieval plague victims. Yeah. So I'm covered in like old lady makeup on the back. It's a hot day. I sit in the white vinyl seat of a classic car. I get out of the car. I am still effectively there. Owner loses it. So it all...
Naked owner loses it.
I just dropped.
Right, so you don't do that anymore.
Don't do that. So then, fired.
So then that show comes off the air, and Jane Root, who remains a TV genius, a TV boss who does know her onions, and some. So she says, Clarkson phones you up and says in 2001, 2002, Andy, meet me in the pub. I think we should bring back Top Gear and it should be a rock and roll kind of thing.
Right. So what he's done is little bit of there, he's already left Top Gear. He left about 3 years earlier because he couldn't think of what to do anymore. So she takes it off air and she says it doesn't come back until someone's done a good version or can offer me something. But nobody, crucially, at the BBC was actually looking to do it. It was kind of left in the weeds. Yeah. So he rang me up. He said, meet me in the pub. And he had his bits of paper. It was all a bit Beautiful Mind. It was scribbles everywhere. But I swear he had about 70% of that show's concept. Yeah. And where I need to pay you back is we were looking at, like, there's TFI, there's That's Live. We were magpieing elements of structure. Right. And I remember Jeremy had a real sort of one day when but Jane Root had accepted it all. And then one day he got a real panic on him. He was like, oh, cross, this is going to work, because he always does that. And he went, hang on a minute, how are we going to have like a car test when we're mucking about with the granny doing the donut? How's that all going to fit together? Who wants to watch that? Ugh. And I was like, when you watch TFI, Chris is like mucking about upstairs with buckets and all that sort of stuff. And then Bon Jovi come on and nobody mucks about.
It's all right.
Yeah. You stop and watch that. You do that. You enjoy it. And everyone's got the brain power to do that's what it is. So we're doing the same. The road test is Bon Jovi. And he was like, oh, I'm calm.
I get it.
Well, the word magazine show was forbidden. And we were actually just doing one. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, right back at you. And you talk, because we can go anywhere you want, because I've read the book, it's great. We can go to the end of the book, which is, you back on the ultimate road trip on the Grand Tour, square in the circle, back where you started, we'll fill in the blanks, everybody read the book. And then you realising the reason it all worked is because it wasn't a TV band of brothers and sisters. You were actually like a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
And that's what you realised in the end. Yeah. And you'd been on tour, out of the house for 20 years. And that's how come it worked and nothing else worked that tried to replace it.
Yeah, and I don't think it was like we fancied ourselves as a band. The penny dropped.
Yeah. Had you fancied yourself as a band, it wouldn't have worked.
I think you're right there. What I mean by a band is, you get these massive shows that are like, well, you've done them with like Toothbrush. You kind of plan it, you execute it, you stress test it. It comes out the traps, it works. Traitors, we're watching it now, Apprentice and everything. And we didn't have a plan. We kept going along. So Jane Root said, well, the one bar was, when we came back 2002, she said, get 3 million viewers. Yeah. We got that. And then she left us alone. And we didn't have a plan that we were going to be like doing specials abroad. That was an accident. The Stig came out of as an accident of a bit of a crisis. Everything was like a muddle.
But let's dive into that. Let's go. Give us 30, because there's so much. Give us 30 seconds on the Stig being an accident.
Right. So we couldn't find a racing driver who could speak. They are a rare breed. Sorry, Martin Brundle, you're the exception. But we couldn't find one who could, and we couldn't have Tiff who could. So I was like, oh my God, we can't find one. And then Jeremy was like standing looking at the like mass board of stories and drawings, and he went, why do they need to speak? Why do they need to speak? And then he went, light bulb. He went, hang on. We'll make sure he never speaks, and we'll just put him in a helmet with like a visor, and no one will know. People will start guessing who he is. He went, they're trying to work it out. And then he went, and I saw Pulp Fiction last night. We can call him the Gimp. So we hire the first guy, Perry McCarthy, and we were like, here's your job, here's your suit, and your name is the Gimp. And he went, and you can boop yourselves, pal. So he wasn't going to like allow that name. So we were like, what are we going to do? And then Jeremy went, Stig. Call him a Stig, because that's what Stig new boys were at our school at Repton. So it was like done and dusted. And then that name became a thing.
And so many things. You talk about happy accidents all the time.
Yeah,
happy accidents all the time. Those happy accidents only happen, though, I know actually, if the right people are doing in the right place, are trying to do the right job, and then you get the happy accidents. So the first ever Top Gear Awards, which is brilliant, by the way, was a happy accident because you ran out of money.
Yeah.
And it was the last show in the first series.
Yeah.
And the only thing you could afford to do was announce some names.
We couldn't shoot, so we couldn't actually have the petrol or the money to pay cameramen to go and shoot another film or edit it. So we were like, it's Top Gear Awards. And I was like, no, please, no, that'd be tragic. And Jeremy's like, no, it'll work. And it went on for, that first one, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, when is this going to end?
Yeah.
When is this going to end? And because the three of them are like competitive, like I've got a funnier line than you. And then you had this Richard Porter coming up with the daftest things. And I'd say half of them hit the spot with the audience. The rest were like, what are we doing here?
And this is in the period where you were paying the audience a tenner in cash to stick around.
Standing by that door.
Please don't leave.
Yeah, they're standing by that door. I know you came to one early one, but I think we'd got our act together by then. But I was standing by the door, and people going, I've got a babysitter. And I'm like, I'm sure you have.
Please
I'm sure you
go.
have. And I was like, right, yeah. So basically, I'm giving him the license fees back in cash.
Yeah, it's so
And I'm like,
funny.
you've got to watch used news. And they're like, no, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't care about a news.
And it was cold, man.
Oh,
Dunsfold was cold, wasn't
hangers.
it? Yeah, and you were back there recently doing an interview for the Times.
I did. I walked in,
which was great.
It was a bit sad because all the like where we'd kick the fire door open was there, and all the marks on the walls and the health and safety signs dangling.
I know.
You know, like
all gorgeous, by the way.
It was.
So let's go everywhere. So you and Clarkson get the green light from Jane and BBC Two.
Yeah.
And then you start to audition people. Hammond auditions. It doesn't go very well. Jeremy's really nice to him afterwards. At which point Hammond turns the whole sort of
he turned it around
into a confessional therapy session, and then he starts talking, and you go, hang on a minute, who's this? What's this?
Yeah.
Do that. You've got the job, but only if you do that, not what you did in the audition.
Not what we did in the audition. This audition was fine, you know, which was like talk about a car, do some sort of mock news items with Jeremy. And we had high hopes because we just light the aura off his VHS tape that had come in. 99% of the tapes that people had sent in, they're doing donuts in B&Q. And you're like, he stands out.
No, thanks.
So we get him, and he does this like mediocre audition. And at the end of it, he went, just as we're all wrapping up, he goes, I've screwed this up, haven't I? And we're like, no, Richard. No, good God, no, it's excellent. And he's like, no, I have, I can tell. He said, I'm not thick, I can tell. And then he starts this litany of everything that has gone wrong in his career.
And he says, I always do this.
And it's getting funnier. Yeah, he goes, I do it every time. And then it peaks with him talking about his radio DJ career, of which the peak is he's got a job on Radio Cumbria, but he's got the Alan Partridge slot through till dawn, right? Radio Cumbria. And he said, and my, highlight of that evening was reading out 25-minute long list, the names of lambs up for adoption.
Come on, this is what we talked about before, wasn't it?
Cut your teeth, kids. Get to Cumbria. And then, so by this time, Jeremy's in tears. You know, he can't speak because of the delivery of this. It's this perfect, monologue. And we're like, I don't care what he said about the Renault Aventime. He stays. You know,
Yeah.
we know we can make him work.
Okay, and Captain Slow wasn't on board at all for the first series, but he did audition again, and then he and Clarkson were in a car, reviewing a car for print, and then he and Clarkson disagreed so much about this car, Jeremy thought, oh, this is a guy who I can have a proper Barney with on the telly.
Yeah, and a proper car one.
Yeah,
you know,
because they both are qualified.
Yeah, and I think also because he knew James was a good columnist, good writer. James knew how to shrink the component parts. Well, you wouldn't have thought it sometimes the way it goes on, but that you could get it down to the nuts and bolts. Like, he hated the Nürburgring. You know, it was like they should shut that place down because it just makes cars too horrible to drive.
Yeah.
And Jeremy and Rich are like, no, you worship the Nürburgring. So the petrol heads got it.
Yeah.
The fans love this argument about this mythical place somewhere. Yeah. And James had that other thing where he had a fixation about a really lateral thinking, very you.
Yeah.
So he would go, the most important thing in a car is the hook in the passenger well of they got one in the Nissan Micra, and we're like, well, what's with the hook, James? You know, most important part of the car. He goes, okay, you're coming home with your takeaway curry. It's on the passenger seat because you haven't got a hook to put it anywhere. Somebody steps out into the road. Do you brake and your curry goes everywhere? Or do you plough on, kill the person, but you get your... It's
the trolley problem.
Yeah.
Times 1,000.
Times 1,000. So the BBC are listening to this on the sort of news of him going, or do you just carry on driving and kill the pedestrian, but you get your curry home in time? And you're like, yeah, this is working now. This is working. And the BBC then have to leave us alone because they can't say anything.
Yeah.
They can't come back with an alternative.
Love it. So, and then back to episode 1, series 1. That was series 2 when James comes on board. Yeah, you wanted a guest on the back of the fag packet because I've read the book. It says a celebrity guest driving a crap car. That might be funny. Yeah, good as long as you get a celebrity guest. So the pilot's been all right, and Jane Root says, "Where was it shot? It looks like a studio. I don't want it to look like a studio. You said it was shot in an aircraft hangar. So we'll make it look like. Let it look like it. Which was good. Great note from the exec there.
Brilliant note. You know, a signature establishing note. Yeah, and see the cables on the floor. And then,
it's all good. I think we've got a chance here. We've got a shot here, but we can't get anyone to do our show. So you go back to the pub, and then Harry Enfield walks in the pub, and you say, will you be a guest on our show?
He's having a drink in the corner, and we don't spot him, but we're sitting around going, what are we going to do? And you know, like blokes do, you start listing names of famous people. Yeah. But it's not getting you anywhere.
There's no point.
Yeah.
Fills the time.
It does, yeah, George Clooney. But he's not here. And there's that horrible thing which shows that no one will give it a first go. No celeb worth their salt is going to go first. So we were like, what are we going to do? Literally, we're weeks away. And then Harry Enfield finishes his drink and walks past. And we just fell on him because he had no protection. There was no agent, no phone number. So he's a very nice chap. He obliged, and I promised him that Volvo would give him a Volvo estate for the summer. Yeah. For his holiday.
That's how you got him across the line.
Well, I thought I'll ring Volvo tomorrow and tell him that's what they've just done.
Or I'll just buy him one or whatever, or steal one.
That. Yeah. And then he turned up and did it. And he was like, he was the only one who made anybody laugh because we didn't know what we were doing that day. Yeah. Anytime Jeremy said a joke and somebody laughed, he went, no, we're in the car bit. So we still haven't worked it out.
And it's all in there. That line is in there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's shocking.
This isn't the funny bit that would save you laughing till later.
Yeah, you can't.
Kind of
so
stuff.
Literally, we're now telling people when you can find things funny or not.
I know. And so second episode, first series was JK, who was a proper petrol head.
Yeah, so he was like, I'm good. Whatever he shows like, I'm good. I'm in.
Yeah, and then the figures were in, the overnights were in, the consolidated audiences were in, and it was a hit.
It was, but we got that 3 million, so we'd hit our survival thing.
Love it.
Michael Gambon came along, and that was start to get curveballs like that.
Yeah, so Gambon famously had never done a chat show, not even Parkinson, because he wouldn't do them. He didn't like them. For various reasons which we can't say on the radio, but it's all in the book. But he sort of contacts you or something, and
it was Jeremy's out with Adrian Gill, AA Gill,
That's
the
right.
dearly departed AA Gill, much missed. Adrian knows everybody. And he's having lunch with Gambon.
Right.
And he's going, you should do their show. And Gambon goes, what is it? And he tells him, and he's like, I quite like cars and fiddling and tinkering.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'll do that. Sounds like I get to go around a track. So he's the polar opposite of everybody else going, do I have to go around a track? Like Jonathan Ross did not want to go around the track.
So from not being able to get anybody for the first show, you then, in show 8, series 1, you get somebody that nobody else can get.
No, that Parky said was always the one who got away.
Yeah. Incredible. And then, not only that, he pitches up. He's Michael Gambon. He has a great day. He's nice to everybody. And then he puts the car on two wheels
and he's got
into
his
the last.
tie on.
It's like, this is a heaven-sent show.
And he's Knight of the Realm with his bad tie. And he's on 2 wheels with an ill-fitting helmet.
Hence the name of Gambon being the last caller.
Yeah, and we were... So those, again, happy accidents are now happening.
Meant to be, though, mate.
And I want to just drop back really quickly to that band thing. Like, if you don't have a plan where you're going, then surely that's the case with bands. They make something, it gets better. Then they find that they get a sound, but then they make another album. Well, I just thought each series was an album.
Yeah.
Some tracks were not good, some were hits, and so on and so on. And then that's cemented when Jeremy was on a gun shoot, not a shoot. And he's with all the rock gods. He's with Nick Mason, Roger Taylor, and Eric Clapton. And he's like sitting in the back of the Range Rover or whatever, pinching himself, going, what am I doing here? And they're telling their stories about touring. And he's like, God, it must have been great to be in a band. And Clapton went, you don't think you're in a band? And it was not rhetorical, or was, whichever one it is. But he was like, you are, mate. You are in a band. Top Gear's a band. And it stuck with me, but I kind of filed it away as a wow. Eric Clapton said that.
Yeah.
But when I came to think about what we did and how we went along and what was different, it was that stuck in my mind, that we kept making albums. You didn't know what you were going to get next. Some would be criticised.
And you'd go on tour with a live show as well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So Clapton called it. I didn't know that. That's so cool. I read the bit in the book about Bedder's Six moment being in the back of the shooting break with all those guys.
Yeah.
But Clapton called it. Clapton, massive petrol head. I've got to keep it going, Andy, because you've got so much to get through.
Right, yeah.
Sorry about this, because I just want to get it all in there. And by the way, Andy Wilman is here talking about Mr. Wilman's motoring adventure. If you know anybody who loved Top Gear, the Grand Tour, Clarkson's Farm, you've got to get them this book for Christmas. And also, Andy's been on loads of podcasts, so just search Andy Wilman on Spotify. Whoa. And you'll get it all. You got to get more of this juice. It's a fantastic story.
Oh, Chris,
no, seriously, no, it is a fantastic story. And so, then Top Gear, it's higher and higher. Oxygen required. It's the best show in the world. 350 million people a week watch it. And then you say in the book, and I've just talked to you before we came on the air, you sensed the beginning of the end.
Yes, it was collapsing in on itself. It was like one of those sort of Star Trek star things in space. It was like the pressure we're now into 8 million viewers, and we thought that was a blip.
In the UK, 350 million on a weekly basis.
On a weekly basis worldwide. And it's a car show still. And we're still just, like I say, and because it's not a format, because it's not like, these amazing shows like Traitors where you recast and there's your fresh material. We're like going, well, we've got to do new films. And the panic of like, we're not going to get 8 million again. And also, we were terrible delegators, so we can't delegate. So, like I said, I think in the book, we start running a corner shop. You turn round, you're running Selfridges, but you've got the same
staff. And there's a wake of destruction behind you as well.
Yes. We've spent all the money, but if you blow everything up, you can never give it back. So we are like stressed and knackered, and it's falling in on it. It's just falling in on itself. And that last series we start to make is collapsing in on itself. And at the same time, there are moments when we're getting too giddy, too big for our boots. And we're making mistakes like Mexico, being rude about the Mexicans. We did the slope joke and we thought that's okay in our heads, whereas it wasn't okay.
So Florida was innocent, the other stuff wasn't.
Argentina was innocent, pull my toenails out. Florida was innocent, but something like the slope joke, we did that and we thought, ha, that's funny. And yeah, I mean, like I say in the book, I think we thought we were living in a cartoon at that point. So when Tom and Jerry, like he gets an anvil on his head, Tom, and 5 seconds later his head's the same shape again. I think we thought that was us. Yeah. We had a parallel universe we created, and we'd worked so hard to do it that we started to make our own rules about what was right and what was wrong.
And was it head in the sand time then, almost?
Giddy. I'd say, kids when they have too much sugar at a party and they run around and you thought, oh, they're great running around. Then they start breaking the furniture and go, okay, you're not so great now. It got like that.
Got it.
And it was a shame because we had the BBC let us do most things. Murder, lorry drivers, murder prostitutes. Don't have a problem with it. We had fantastic compliance people who loved what we did because that rule at the BBC was always you can get complaints as long as you can defend them. And we were walking that line well, and then we started to make our own rules up.
Yeah. And then you started to push against some people that had helped you for the last 17 years.
Yeah, we just sort of go, oh, we don't need your help. And it was only brief, and they slapped us really hard. And then you feel so bad about what you'd done. But then there's another segment of management who actually just don't like us anyway.
All right. So then Clarkson gets fired.
Yeah.
I get brought on. And then the book gets really interesting. Here's me thinking, what have I done? Right? Okay. All I wanted to do was be a competition winner and present it for a week because it's my favourite show, which is basically what I know. That's the thing. It's like, oh right, okay, no, because Andy's not here.
Into a storm.
Jeremy's not here. Yeah. All right. Okay. This is good. Okay. Well, we'll do what we can. And so we did what we could, and it wasn't enough, and quite right too, and all that kind of stuff. But I did get to host my favourite TV show. Obviously, that's looking back glass half full.
I'm coming doing a breakfast show one day.
The thing is, reading your book, right?
Yeah.
I found it hilarious that you were then going through the same issues trying to do a new show as I was going through trying to do your old show. And it was the same thing. So you got nervous and you got unconfident about doing the Grand Tour.
Yeah.
Like you were doing a show, because you were doing what I was doing. You were trying to carry on. See, when you first started Top Gear in 2001, 2002 with Jeremy, it was ashes. It was like nobody wanted it. It didn't matter. I loved it. But, on paper, it was a boring BBC car review show. So you could put a bum under it because it needed one. But then you finish Top Gear, which is like the most rock and roll TV show in the world. And then you've got to do a new version of it, and I've got a new version of it. So do you know what? We were in the same place.
We were in the same boat. There should be a survivor group where we all meet and get... Now is the time to go out on St. Patrick's Day.
Exactly. So let's get on to Grand Tour. There's no time for this conversation, right? Tell us about...
Right, well, hang
on a second. I've got questions in an order.
I'm getting giddy.
First of all, tell us about the £5 million tent.
Okay, so, right.
How does the tent cost £5 million?
Because of those three, their levels of annoyance go in order of height. Okay. You can guess which way it is.
Yeah.
So we've got... The thing is... We signed this big deal with Amazon, and we're looking at, and they paid us a lot, and we're looking at the noughts. We're so busy looking at them going, whoa. We didn't look at the schedule, which was like, you have to have on air within a year, 12 new shows, new show. It's got to look different, blah, blah, blah.
It's got to be better than Top Gear, which was the biggest show in the world.
I count with that. I don't think we can do that, but it's got to be good, and it's got to be global. Here's the kicker. They go... But it's got to be spiritually as close to Top Gear as possible without angering the BBC lawyers.
Who were looking very closely at what you were doing.
So they're like, we don't want to have to go to prison because you did this or that. Cue avalanche of lawyers coming in. Mm-hmm. And they are... And it's extraordinary because they look at details. So you can have three men in a room talking to a crowd.
Yeah.
You can have a track with a lap. But it's a detail. So some of the meetings where they go... I will get to the tent.
No, you got to get to the tent now because I've got 15 more questions for you. How does the tent cost?
Right, so they go right. We need some ideas. So we're going studio. We can have a studio, and then Jeremy comes. He brings up and he goes, "I've had an idea." He said, "I was watching True Detective last night," and he went, "They've got this there's this episode where they're having this religious meeting, and they've got this tent with about 6 poles, really scruffy, looks dead cheap. Why don't we put a tent up?" Everybody around him, all the technical people, studio director going, that won't work. They go, what about noise? What about sound? What about
sound,
rain?
Isn't it?
Yeah, sound, rain, everything. And Jeremy's going, how hard can it be? Out comes the phrase. So we keep telling him this is going to be really tough to do. Amazon execs are flying over in 2 weeks' time. We keep showing him it's going to be the most complex. It's basically going to be a building, that we're moving around. And he's like, it won't be. It'll be fine. So we go up the lift in the Amazon building to meet these Americans when they arrive for this big sort of editorial meeting. Our lawyer and all three of us say to him, don't mention the tent. It's not budgeted. It's not costed. Don't mention. So he gets out and he's like one of them sort of kids at the tent. No, he's learning his lines. He's walking in the background. Right. Don't mention tent. Don't mention tent. Don't mention tent. So we're all standing there and it's one of these awkward meetings with these American execs and we're like, there was a load of quiche on the table. I do not know why. We start eating the quiche out of nerves. He hasn't got any quiche in his mouth. And then this American guy goes, so you got any ideas for the new show? And I'm like, oh, here comes the question, right? So now what we do is just brave it out with awkward silence. The awkward silence will end. And then we'll move on because we'll just be polite. We can munch quiche. That'll sort it. He hasn't got any quiche. The awkward silence goes on longer. The only person who abhors a vacuum more than nature hasn't got any quiche in his mouth. So he draws breath. And it's like, you know those sort of Die Hard films when he's leaping over in slow motion? No! And he draws breath and he goes, I was watching True Detective. And you're like, no! So right. He says it.
Yeah.
And the Americans love it.
Yeah.
And then we have to commit to it.
So why does it cost £5 million?
Well, okay, so you've got to have a floor that's perfect for cameras to roll around on.
Well, that's about 100 grand or something.
Yeah.
So we're still at 4.9 million.
Then it's got to have this double skin thing because of rain and what have you.
Yeah.
Then the window thing that's behind them has got to be made out of like stuff from the planet Mercury. It
so
can't
you can
just
see
be like,
through it and
it's not something from millets.
Non-reflective.
Yeah, all that at all times a day. So you're not getting that from millets. Then
and you need 2 tents.
You need 2 tents because you're doing that rock and roll touring thing.
Right.
Of one stage is here while one stage is there. So you've got 2 of them. You then need another tent to put the 4K, which is the thing of the moment.
Put the money in to pay for the
crew. So they've got, and then they've all got to have hotel rooms and everything. They've all got to come around with you. And there's tents now building in town until it's like a little car fest. It's like going on and on.
Yeah.
And we were like, I'd said to the producer who was doing it, can we bring this in for $2 million for the series, moving it around the world and everything? He looked at me and he went, yeah. And I thought, I've got to buy into this lie as well, because I know he's giving me a lie. But we went, okay, right. And then the end of the run, I went, it's going to be 3. We've got to brace ourselves.
Yeah.
And then it was 5.
£5 million for the
$5 million. So it was our Spinal Tap Stonehenge.
Yeah, well, that's about what we had to make the first series. So you had for your tents what we had to.
No, really?
Yeah, something like 6.
No.
Honestly, and then you spent $2.5 million on the opening title sequence for the first episode ever of Grand Tour to make a statement, and boy, did it! Noah, my son, you got a Noah. I've got a Noah.
I don't know.
Yeah. He wants to know how come. He said, Dad, how did it cost £2.5 million? I said, because that's what things cost. He said, no, but how? I went, I don't know. I didn't make it. But I'm sure there were helicopters and things like that.
We want to be an accountant.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, it's so not like him. And I'm like, why? Yeah. This is. I usually get granular, not you. But you had a £2.5 million opening title sequence for the first ever Grand Tour. Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you. And it got built. I mean, Jeremy's like brain, and we wouldn't be here without that brain. There's no question. He started with the song. And then he built his story, and it was all. Then he was doing that. I'm leaving the BBC, and like I say, and then he goes, then I go to America, and I'm in economy, and we're like, no, you're not in economy. No, everyone knows you got a few quid. You're not in economy. Easy, and he's like, all right, I won't be in economy. But he was pulling the strings a bit.
He wouldn't fit in economy anyway.
I know. What's this? Where's all the rest of them? Move these chairs. So we get to then, and then it builds, and then they come, and then it was logical that. We had to go to a crowd and we had to be in a desert and we wanted that whole
Coachella
foul maps of cars and they got to be as odd.
Coachella.
There were lots of cars that came from everywhere and we wanted to be and it was like everybody's welcome type cars. So you can have anything. Yeah. But you got to bus them in.
Did you have a Citroen Berlingo, which was your first ever car on
no, we didn't. No,
that would have been funny, wouldn't it?
Oh, no, we didn't.
First and last. Right, look, we are out of time. Quickly, Hammond and May nearly went back to the BBC without Jezza, which is when you knew you had to fast track some kind of serious American offer.
Yeah.
And it was Netflix versus Amazon, and you went with Amazon. Why in 10 seconds?
We went with Amazon because they were outliers. Netflix were already huge, and Amazon were like, we want to grow. and we want to launch globally.
Yeah.
And they knew that we were a fit for that.
I know, good brand.
And we thought, no, let's go with the New Boys.
Yeah.
Because that's a bit more Wild West.
Yeah.
And we'll see where we get to.
Okay, got that one.
So we did that.
Hammond and May, how close were they to staying at the Beeb? Close.
It was close, yeah, because they offered him a ton, and
they needed the gig, and
they offered him the editorial control, and I think that was a big one.
Right.
But in the end, it was just like, I don't know, Stockholm syndrome. Can't do without each other.
Can't do without each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Get the band back together.
I know.
Awesome. And then you called it a day on the Grand Tour. You start the book with that story, and then obviously you square the circle at the end of the book. Yeah. What a moment. You know.
Yes, I was.
Noah and I were talking about it again last night about the last episode.
How old's Noah now?
He's 16.
Oh, is he watching the shows?
Of course, he loves it.
Is it back on the tape?
He loves Top Gear, Grand Tour, and he really loves Clarkson's Farm as well.
Why do kids like the farm show?
Because it's this humour. It's silly. It's grown-ups being silly.
It is. It's an odd one.
Also, we're all playing a role anyway. Farmer, not real farmers, but Jeremy's playing being a farmer.
Yeah, he is,
and he's playing being a racing driver. He's playing all this kind of stuff. I'm playing being a DJ. That's the deal.
We're true. We're all playing. And I think kids like a gang.
Apart from people who are saving people's lives, we're all playing.
Yeah, true. Right, and refugee hospital.
Yeah, exactly.
Are not playing.
Exactly.
But it's a gang at the farm. I think that's what matters.
No, the farm is great. Please come back on and talk about the farm again.
All right.
So just before you go, you carried on filming when you finished the official film, the last film in Bolivia on Grand Tour, and it was the taking off the mics and the selfies. That was all real. It was Botswana.
Yeah.
And that was all real, and that was all, let's stick that in. And you were worried about the gentleness of the last ever episode of you guys doing a car show.
Yes.
Noah and I talked about that last night, and he said it was perfect. And you got that, didn't you, from the fans in the end? They loved it. They loved the fact that you were poetic and you were real and you were authentic and you were vulnerable. The only episode of Top Gear that ever made me cry was when Jeremy did a review of the Aston Martin V12 Vantage, and he said, I think this is the death of cars as we knew them, because he loved it. It was brand new at the time, and I watched it and I sobbed. Do you remember that?
Was that the one with no music, with no words?
Yeah.
With the Brian Eno track?
Yeah.
Was that the one?
Yeah. It looked like it was the Lakes or Scotland or somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was in bits after that.
Well, that's interesting because he wanted to do it as I don't want to speak. Yeah. It was like, I think it was an exercise for him, but that it hit you like that.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I didn't. Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Anyway, Andy, great to see you. What a book.
Thank you.
What a chat.
Thank you. No, we had a cracking chat, didn't we?
Yeah, it was great, man. Great.
I'm just cancelling what you've got for the rest of the morning. I'm seeing what's on.
We're pretty much done.
Oh, all right.
So let's hear from Andy Wilman. Brilliant book. You got to get this book. Andy Wilman, Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventure.